Hello, my name's Miss Waite and I'm going to be your Year 5 English home learning tutor. For the next 10 lessons, we're going to be focusing on the theme of community using Sean Tan's book, The Arrival. At the beginning of each of our sessions, we'll start off with a little warm-up activity that you can do independently or with anybody else that you have at home with you at the moment. It's just a task to get you thinking and ready for the day's lesson. Let's see what we have today. Name these children's books. Extra points if you can name the author too. There's 3 books here and I've used some emojis to try to explain which book we're talking about. Feel free to stop the video now so you have time to think or to confer with somebody else. Welcome back. Let's see how you've done. So the first one, we've got a picture of a robber or somebody stealing something maybe they shouldn't, and a crown, so maybe they're stealing the crown, and an old lady. Let's see. Gangster Granny by David Walliams. Number 2. We have a lion plus a witch plus a wardrobe. Wonder what it could be. That's right, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. And finally, there's a pair of glasses, a lightning bolt, a goblet, and some fire. Being a bit specific here, let's have a look. It's Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, written by J.K. Rowling. Like I said, give yourself an extra point if you've managed to get each of those authors as well. Well done. Okay. Now, before we get started with today's main lesson, let's just check that we are ready. You'll need something to write with and something to write on. Please stop the video if you need to go and collect those things now. Excellent. Let's get going. So I mentioned earlier that the theme running through all of our lessons is community, and you may have heard this being referred to in some of your other lessons at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to just bring our ideas together about what this word means, especially as you may have heard it in other sessions. On my screen here, I have got what we call a zone of relevance. Okay, things that are most relevant are things that definitely link. And then as we go further away from that green center, and we've got that red section on the outside, these are the things that are the least relevant. They're not like our theme. And you can see I've written on there, yes, this describes community, and no, I don't think this describes community. Now, over on the left-hand side here, I've given you 7 different words that may or may not remind us of what community is or what it does. Take a few moments now to think about which of these words you would put in the middle, in the green section of our target, because it is relevant to the word community. It does describe it. And if there are any words that you think really don't describe what community is or what it does, you're going to place it in that red section. And if you think that there are any words there you think maybe they do, maybe they don't, a little bit yes, a little bit no, they're going to go in this orange section here. In your notebook or on your paper, you might want to draw this down so that you can jot those words in there, or simply colour code them. Stop the video now so that you can complete this task. Welcome back. So let's have a little think about where these words might go. So we've got words like being welcoming. I'm going to start with that. Where did you put that? Is that a red? Nope, that's not what community is. Or did you put it closer to the middle? I think the word welcoming, I might put straight into this middle section here. I would hope that being a part of a community would mean that I was welcome and that I felt like I belonged there too. What about this word then, loneliness? Where would you put this word? It's really interesting, I think, this one. Being lonely is that feeling of being completely on your own. And I think to begin with, I would definitely be wanting to put that in my red section, because I'd like to think that if you're part of a community, that nobody would feel lonely, because you'd all be looking out for each other, making sure everybody's okay. But I'm also aware that there are some times, even though we have a great community around us, we can still feel that loneliness. So I'm going to pop it right on the edge here. Let's change that pen colour so we can see that a little more clearly. There we go. Put it right on the edge there, because I think even though it's not something we want to associate with community, that there are times when it might be apparent. And that's when community really comes alive. Support. Well, if we're feeling lonely and we're definitely welcoming people, I think support is another green one straight over here. However, you might find that in your community that there's sometimes support there, but maybe not always, and maybe not always in the right places. Maybe that has been an orange word for you based on your experiences. Quiet. Quiet communities. I think this will come down to your own experiences. But I think for a community, for it to be connected and working well, it's not always going to be quiet. But sometimes when it's working well, it's very quiet. Let's pop this one in the orange section. Community is about togetherness. Absolutely. I'm going to pop that there. But it's good to kind of note it as well that just because a community is about togetherness and us all working together, it doesn't mean that we have to be physically together all of the time. Sometimes we need our own space. Respect. Respect is a great one. I think I agree with you, definitely in this green section. In order for a community to work, it needs to be respectful of other people's situations, beliefs, habits, and also of the environment that it's in too. What about that word isolation? It's a word that we've probably heard a lot of in the last year, more so than we ever have before. And there has been definite moments in a community where we've had to see isolation in order for that community to work. But ideally, I would say this is definitely one for our red section. I want you now to think about, let's see if I can move my face, there it is. I want you now to think of 3 more words that we could add to this green section of our zone of relevance. What other words might help to describe what a community means to you, or how it works? Stop the video now so you've got time to think and jot them down. Welcome back. I'm going to share with you now some of the words that I might add to that section. Belonging. teamwork, and pride would be my third one. Being proud of the area that you live in and doing things and increasing that level of respect with that pride as well. Those are my 3 words. So now that we've got this idea of community, we've got it sitting at the back of our minds, we can keep coming back to these thoughts, these words and ideas as we journey through our book. Let's find out more about it. So here's the front cover for our book, The Arrival by Shaun Tan. It may be a book that you've seen around school. Maybe you've even picked it up and had a little read of it. Or maybe it's something that you've covered before, and I hope that we can still get something out of the discussions and the thought processes that we're going to go through on this journey. Today, we're going to start by familiarising ourselves with the opening of this story, and we're going to begin to make inferences about the characters' thoughts, feelings, and motives. By inferences means we're going to be taking a look at some of the images and seeing what we learn about the characters' thoughts, feelings, and motives just by what we see, what clues there are, and what information does that give us. I'll give you an example. Just by looking at this front cover, I can infer that the creature is friendly because its mouth looks like it is smiling. So the clue here is that look on the face of this creature down at the bottom. It's slightly turned up at the sides, which is what happens when we smile. So that's what I've learned just by seeing that in my picture. I can also infer, and I shall move myself to the other side here. There we go. I can also infer that the man hasn't seen this creature before, as he looks puzzled or intrigued by it. And I can tell that he's puzzled or intrigued by it by the way the man is looking down at the creature. His hand is raised to his face as if he's trying to work out what the creature is. Okay, looks like he's trying to work it out, doesn't it? So again, just by putting the character in that position gives me a clue about how that character is feeling and maybe what his thoughts are. I can also infer that The Arrival, so the title of the book, is probably the gentleman because he has a suitcase in his hand. This tells me that he has either been on a journey or is about to go on a journey. So therefore, will or has been an arrival already. Now, I might still be incorrect with my inferences, but that's what the clues are telling me at the moment. Have a look at the picture for yourself. Stop the video now so you can take the time to properly look and come up with your own "I can infer that" sentence. Welcome back. Be interesting to hear what you have inferred from this picture. Maybe it's about the possibility that this is set in the past. And I might infer that because of the colours that are being used on this image. There are those dark browns, kind of sepia tones that we might see in old-fashioned photographs. I might infer that this is maybe a story that's quite old and has been retold a lot, because I can see that on the picture there are kind of scruffy marks and lines on the picture, which looks like it's been worn. So maybe the story's been shared quite a lot. Now, this book is a picture book, which means that the whole story is told through pictures. So we're going to see a lot of that today and in our next few sessions. It's about what these pictures do to tell the story. There are many pages in this book which have like this series of 9 pictures, sometimes more. And we're going to read it like we would a normal book, okay, from left to right. So we're going to start with this picture here of a photograph in a frame. And then we see this hand come in and take the photograph. And we can see the photograph then being wrapped in maybe some paper or some cloth. And that then is tied up with a bow. And we can see it then being placed on something. It looks like something else is folded there. And then we see the hands closing a suitcase. So maybe that picture frame that's been wrapped up has been put into the suitcase. I'm going to move myself just to the middle here. And we can see there that there is something being wrapped around that suitcase. You can see there being pulled tight. It looks like a belt. And we've got that hand just resting, like that job is done. And another hand that comes in. We don't know yet who that hand belongs to. It could be the same person, might be somebody different. So now that we've read the pictures, what can we infer? What do we learn from them, from the clues that they've used? I can infer that the photograph is very precious because it's being wrapped up carefully to keep it safe. If it wasn't very precious, I might not wrap it up. I might not tie a bow of string round it. I might not even take it with me wherever I'm going and putting it in my suitcase. I can also infer that the suitcase is old and possibly broken. I know this because they've had to keep it closed by using a belt. Now, my inference might be different to your inference. I know that I've also noticed that when people go on holiday, sometimes they put an extra strap or a belt around their suitcase, not because it's broken, but because they need it to stand out. So when it goes round on the conveyor belts or it's in a holding lock, they can identify which one is theirs in case it looks the same as somebody else's. So you can see how my inference could be correct, but it might not be. Lastly, I can infer that the person who owns the suitcase may not have much money, as they haven't been able to buy a new suitcase. So I'm using the inference that I made previously about it possibly being broken and developing that further by making a second inference. They haven't been able to replace the broken suitcase, and so therefore have used the belt to try to keep it going for a bit longer. Stop the video now so that you can take some time to think about other inferences that you might be able to make from these pictures. Welcome back. Be interesting to hear some of those inferences that you've made. What else have you noticed in the pictures that maybe I've missed? Take a good look at this next picture. Pause the video if you need to. I'm just going to guide you towards things that you could make inferences about. And in your books or on your paper, you're going to write 3 sentences, 3 I can infer that sentences. Your first infer sentence is going to be about the feelings here. How might these characters be feeling? Have a look at their faces, maybe at their bodies, and how they're positioning themselves. Think about what the relationship might be between the two. So I can infer that is feeling because I can see now think about maybe their motives. What are the reasons behind their actions? Why might there be a suitcase on the kitchen table? Why might the woman's hand be on top of the man's hand? We can already assume that from the front cover of the book that the man might be the one that is arriving or about to head off somewhere to arrive somewhere else. So I can infer that the suitcase is being used because, or the man is leaving because, or I can infer that the woman has placed her hand on the man's because. So think about those actions. And lastly, leave it open to you. What other clues are there in the picture? What other things might we be able to learn about this situation and this part of the story from what we see? So I can infer that this is the home of a family because I can see pictures drawn by a child hanging in the background. Pause the video so you have time to write your 3 sentences. So I'm going to share with you the next picture that comes up in the book. And I want you to think about what inferences you can make about the setting, like where this story is taking place. You ready? Here it is. What do you notice and what can you see? I'll pop myself over there to reveal our characters. Does it look like a positive place? A community that you'd want to be a part of? And if it's not positive, why not? What's telling us that it's not a positive community to be a part of? What we're going to do now is watch the opening to this story. There are many people out there that have taken this book and made it into an animation. In fact, it's been made into a theatre production as well. I'm going to share with you one particular adaptation of it. We're not going to watch the whole animation, just this beginning part of the story. Let's see if we can find out anything else about what's really going on. think it's safe to say it's a really beautiful animation, but also because it is somebody else's adaptation, just be aware that not all of the pictures that we see in the book appear in the animation. And that's definitely a discussion that we're going to be having in one of our later lessons. After seeing it, you may have been able to confirm some of the things that you inferred in our previous activities. Maybe as you were watching it, you could see that, yes, you were right there, and actually that is what's happening. And there may have been some things that may have challenged your thoughts, maybe changed your perception. Maybe you noticed something else or saw another clue that has developed your thinking further. We're going to use what we have inferred today and what we've seen to complete this last task. So in your books or on your piece of paper, I want you to create the table that I've got here on the screen for you with 3 columns. One where you're going to agree, a second one in the middle where we've got space where things could go either way, and a third column for disagree. Once you've drawn that, I want you to read through the 6 statements at the top of the page. Which of these statements do you agree with, and why? Which ones do you disagree with, and what's your reasoning? What have you seen that means you disagree with that statement? And which statements are neither agree nor disagree? Maybe there's evidence for both sides of the argument. But what is that evidence? I'm going to read through those 6 statements now. A. The man doesn't want to be with his family anymore. B. The wife and child are safe. C. The man is leaving because he has a new job. D. Monsters have taken over the city. E. The city is unwelcoming. And F. The family will be together again soon. Pause the video now so you have time to really think about your answers. Draw up your table and write each of those statements in the column that you think it best suits. But remember to always explain why. Why did you put it there? What is the evidence? Excellent work today, Year 5. Well done. Great inferences. I'll see you again tomorrow in our second session. Bye for now.